No, the FDA basically says what you can or can't do to not hurt the patient. They're not going to tell you for the result that you want. That's not their job. That's your job.
Looking at it as an entrepreneur, I kind of look as the capital that we have is really the FDA, right? If we're gonna take a dollar and invest in a new idea that somebody on the team has, it could be even lunch. It sounds crazy. It could be, we have lunch on Wednesdays, and we have coffee and a barista coming in multiple days a week. We want to see that there is effectiveness and there's value that's created beyond, oh, it's nice to have. Um, and whether it's an experiment in the lending side, whether it's an underwriting model, there's also this adverse selection process, which is very interesting because we may be thinking we're getting progress, and you actually might see progress in the population that you're going after. But really, what you're doing is you're biasing the system to get you the results that you want. And the way that I've seen it is, yeah, I'll give you kind of the example from the company standpoint. These are high-risk customers that our lenders are going to be originating. And so one of the ideas is, well, if the population is high risk, let me just make it more and more difficult for a risky person to get approved. And so you're theoretically eliminating all of the risky customers, and you're going to jump through 7 different hoops. And we know that after we've gone through all these processes, you're going to have the right quality customer. The problem with that is it also reduces the amount of good customers who aren't going to tolerate the 7 different hoops you have to jump through. So yes, we end up getting better quality customers, but we're also eliminating a lot of high quality customers in the process. Have you ever seen this in the biotech space or FDA or pharmaceutical or stuff that you're working in, where you think you're getting the correct endpoint and you're seeing the value created, but really you're missing the entire because of the way you're selecting and how you're managing through the process?
Yeah, I hadn't thought of it that way, but now that you mention it, it happens all the time. Because in a clinical trial, you set certain rules as to who can come in, and there's inclusion, like the criteria for you to be in there, and there's exclusion, the criteria for why you can't be in there. And depending on how you set those requirements, that's your population set that you're going to do this experiment on. And there's a tendency, because you want a certain effect, if you design the experiment appropriately, you know the end effect, and you're working backwards, that you, in your trial, will selectively take patients that you know are going to be the best responders. And so as a result, it will look like, oh, this thing can work. And usually what happens is these experiments are designed, you're doing a small subset, and then when you get approval, the idea is that, oh, it expands and it opens up, and more people will use this. But if you've been selectively excluding to make yourself look good in the beginning, and then you're required to open that subset in your last trial to a larger set of population, more than likely you're going to get results that you didn't expect. And I think this is an artifice of trying to engineer the results, especially when you're trying to raise capital, because you're trying to demonstrate to the investors, not just the FDA, and the FDA is not going to comment. A lot of times people think, oh, the FDA is going to be the arbiter of your trial. No, the FDA basically says what you can or can't do to not hurt the patient. They're not going to tell you for the result that you want. That's not their job. That's your job. You will sort of force yourself, as in your company and the people involved, into rigging the trial, no, subconsciously sometimes, to generate the result that you want, because you know your bosses, who are driven financially, want to see a particular result so that they can raise the capital to get to the end point. And so you end up sort of shooting yourself in the foot, because at some point you forget that you even did that. And that's what usually happens. You get caught in all this data set and you forget that, oh, I excluded this group before, and now I have to add them back in. And no one wants to openly admit it. And this is the part that drives me crazy in the biotech world, is a trial will fail. The press release, if you weren't looking at it, would say, oh, it was such a great success. What's wrong with it? But the trial is a failure. But they will never cop up to it unless it is an abject failure. And it's really hard because you're sort of doing this to yourself. And it happens way too often. And what usually happens is you will try to pull one nugget, one small nugget of success out of it and try to make that the basis for success.